All the action takes place in a beautiful big white castle which is surrounded by many towers. A young guy is sitting at the table and waiting for his food to be served. Next to him is his butler, a beautiful and young maid, preparing food to be served to the young man. She was very nervous, so much so that drops of sweat formed on her cheeks. As she brings the food to the young man, she realizes that her hands are shaking very badly. She carried the plate very carefully, looking straight at it so as not to spill anything. Yet, no matter how concentrated the girl was, she still dropped the plate she was carrying, as if she was scared and very disappointed about what had happened. A young guy gets up from the table and orders the girl to clean up what she spilled. The same plate fell right in front of him and spilled out. The guy looks very annoyed. The other maids are shocked by what has happened. The young girl apologizes for what she has done and realizes that she has made a very big mistake. The girl is comforted by another maid. She asks her if she is all right and tells her not to cry. The girl looks very disappointed. The other housekeeper says she understands, she could have been killed, and in that case the feeling of fear is absolutely justified. The girl who dropped the plate says that she was not upset because of that. She was upset because she let His Majesty get up from the table with an empty stomach. She says she feels very guilty because His Majesty stayed hungry. The second housekeeper asks her if she's one of them. The girl who dropped the plate doesn't understand what she's being asked. The second housekeeper says she thought it was a pleasure to serve His Majesty. Wiping up what she had spilled on the table, the girl said that she was not at all bitter about serving His Majesty, but rather flattered to be serving him. Turns out His Majesty is her favorite character from her favorite novel called The Holy Maiden and the King of Darkness. Turns out she's excited because she gets to serve His Majesty the King of Darkness, Klaus. It turns out in real life this girl was hit by a truck when she was crossing the road. The truck lost control. Then the girl thought she was dead. But then when she woke up she was very surprised, because she was facing her favorite character from The Holy Maiden and the King of Darkness. Klaus told her she'd serve him. At first the girl did not understand why Klaus was where she was, nor did she understand in what sense he was to be served. But the next moment she realized she'd fallen for the Holy Maiden and the King of Darkness. She turned out to be the daughter of the local feudal lord Anna Revel. It turns out it was her father who put her where she is now, and so that she could become His Majesty Klaus's maid, and her father introduced her to a teacher of manners, and only then could she serve him. She really liked Klaus. She even asked herself if he was the King of Darkness Klaus, because he looked just like he did in the illustrations. He did look quite majestic. It turns out Klaus was her favorite character, the one she looked up to more than her birth parents. And it was only then that she realized she'd fallen into that novel's world of holiness and darkness. Even now, after she spills her plate, she takes things away and goes into her own thoughts. She thought she would at least try to serve her favorite character, but she can't do it. The other maids talk among themselves about her. They think the girl is cursed with darkness, because she serves the King of Darkness himself. The girl has heard all this gossip. It turns out that she serves His Majesty Klaus, who is called the King of Darkness and is very much feared, and all because he has the curse of darkness on him. Klaus killed both his enemies and his allies. Everyone thought he was cursed, so he became the King of Darkness, and the people who believed the unfounded rumors condemned Klaus. But in the girl's favorite novel, the Holy Virgin appeared before the suffering Klaus, and only she could save him through the power of love. As she puts her things on the ropes, she remembers how much she cried at the charms removal scene. She seems to enjoy remembering those moments. The girl realizes that it's time for the Holy Virgin to appear, just as it was written in the novel, and if she doesn't, the curse on Klaus can't be broken. Once a month, the King of Darkness stays away from people and closes himself in his room. Passing Klaus' room, the girl hears screams and moans of pain. She thinks about how painful his voice is. When she opens the door to Klaus' room, the girl is shocked. You can see it in her gaze. She realizes that the maiden didn't show up. She couldn't stand his screams of pain, so she opened the door to his room wide open and ran in. She saw Klaus lying on the bed writhing in pain. He was sweating and his eyes were glowing red. Realizing that someone had entered his room, Klaus asked who it was. She walks over to the bed where Klaus was lying, and with a handkerchief in her hand, she decides to wipe the sweat from his forehead. At which point Klaus grabs her hand. He throws the young girl on his bed and looks straight into her frightened eyes. His eyes still the same red color, and her eyes blue as the sky. Taking a closer look, Klaus realizes it's his maid Anna. The incredibly evil King of Darkness asks her why she's here, while staring at her with his crazy eyes. His misunderstanding is based on the fact that she took a big risk going in there, because he could have killed her and raped her. The mad King of Darkness looks at the girl and asks her if she's ready to be sacrificed. Klaus gently touches her hands and then starts kissing her neck. You can see that Anna likes it very much. She blushed and started to make sounds of pleasure. Anna realizes that when Klaus' lips touch hers, she feels a strange and very pleasant sensation, and even arousal, from his actions. Suddenly Klaus was angry. He was starting to look like he was feeling incredible pain mixed with inhuman anger again. Anna being with him, she doesn't understand what to do in such a situation and thinks that it's probably because of the curse. The confused girl asks herself where is the Holy Virgin. While Klaus becomes even more evil, the girl knows that the curse of darkness can only be broken by the Holy Virgin, and she doesn't understand why she is just a servant from the background. Anna realizes that if things continue like this, Klaus will die. The girl hugs Klaus. I turn to the void. She asks that in exchange for anything, Klaus be saved from the curse. A blue glow appears around them. The girl can't understand what's going on, but she has an idea that she finds very hard to believe. From her facial expression we can understand that she is scared, but at the same time delighted. Klaus, seeing everything that is happening, as well as Anna, does not understand anything, but he decides only to ask the young girl who she is. The King of Darkness being in Anna's arms closes his eyes and I tilt my head back. Anna blushes and is very surprised at what is happening. I touch his face. Anna realizes Klaus is asleep. She thanks God Klaus is still alive. Klaus changes his sleeping posture, but the girl realizes that she won't be able to hold it until morning. During breakfast the next day, Klaus and Anna are talking to each other. Anna asks Klaus what's going on, blushing a lot, to which Klaus replies that when he touches her he feels much better. Klaus hugs his housekeeper Anna from behind. He forks up the food they brought him and tells Anna to open her mouth. Apparently he wants to feed her. She diligently refuses to eat. Anna asks His Majesty not to feed her, to which she gets a sharp question about whether she's refusing him. Klaus looks very stern. Anna thinks about the fact that when her idol looks at her like that she cannot refuse him. She realizes that he is unemotional, but also knows that he is actually very lonely and kind inside. Klaus still manages to feed Anna. The girl looks very satisfied and a little embarrassed, and Klaus still looks at her with the same gaze. Then someone says to Klaus, "Stop it." After looking at who said it, the girl realizes it's Chancellor Raymond. According to the girl, he's kind of an unpleasant character with a lot of powers. Raymond looks pretty serious. Klaus hugs the uncomprehending girl and asks the Chancellor, "Didn't he say that when this girl is around he feels better?" He looks at the Chancellor with his piercing gaze. Klaus also asks him if he would be better off if Klaus were dead. Klaus' words are aggressive. The Chancellor bows and says it can't be. Stroking Anna's head, Klaus asks the Chancellor what he doesn't like, to which he simply apologizes for being too intrusive. Anna is very excited about everything that's happening, so much so that she's sweating. She wonders if the Chancellor has enlisted her as his adversary. Klaus tells the girl not to worry. The girl realizes that the King of Darkness looks like he is much relieved, but she knows that only the Holy Maiden can break the curse. Klaus is drinking wine, while Anna, who is sitting on his knee, asks him if the Holy Virgin has come, and she gives him a meaningful look. Klaus sets his guilt on the table, and as if surprised by such a question, it turns out this is the first time he's heard of the Holy Maiden. Anna herself is very surprised, so much so that she is confused about what is going on. She asks herself if Klaus really doesn't know the Holy Maiden. She doesn't understand what is going on at all. The girl sees a rather large wound on Klaus' neck. She wonders when the wound appeared, assuming it appeared when he was suffering from the curse. Anna touches his neck, exactly where he has the wound. She asks Klaus if it hurts. She doesn't want to look at her idol's painful face, and asks herself again, does the denouement differ from the original? Klaus grabs her hand that touches his neck. He asks Anna if she's inviting him and tells her that if so, they're going to have an amazing evening. Anna is sitting by the fountain, with the castle in the background, and is hugging some book. She is thinking about Mr. Claus being too active right in the morning. She remembers him saying at breakfast that they were going to have an amazing evening. Thinking about the evening, she realizes it's the same one. It turns out the girl is scared to spend the night with Klaus. She's scared to spend the night with her idol. She thinks she'll die of happiness. She wanted to see the story through the eyes of a minor character. But looks like the story itself is getting kind of weird and confusing. She tried to find a book curse in the library, but what she sees doesn't really help her. The girl looks very disappointed that she couldn't find the right book to help her. According to Anna, the fact that his curse is weakening means that a magic circle was activated that night to weaken his curse. Anna thinks that she may be the one who activated the magic circle that weakened Klaus' curse. Anna suggests that maybe the curse of darkness was put on Klaus because the previous king was a tyrant. But she rightly points out that the book is unlikely to say so. She thinks that if the Holy Virgin were here, everything would be solved in a moment. And if the Holy Virgin were here, Klaus would never have to suffer like this again. She remembers the night she walked in on him, and he was sweating on his bed. Anna decides to keep her spirits up and affirmatively says that she will do everything in her power. Tears are visible in her eyes. She looks very motivated. She thinks if she activated the magic circle, there must have been a reason for it. And I also remember what Klaus said at breakfast when he said that the moment he touched her, he felt so much better. It dawned on Anna. She remembered Klaus kissing her neck that night, and confused suggests that to activate the magic circle, one must engage in inappropriate behavior. Suddenly from behind Anna reading a book, someone grabs her wrist and says she's busted, turns around. She sees it's Chancellor Raymond. She asks Chancellor Raymond if anything has happened. Looking very agitated, the irritated Chancellor asks the housekeeper how she managed to deceive His Majesty Klaus, because he thought it would be enough to get rid of the Holy Virgin. Anna is sweating with excitement as usual. When she hears the Chancellor's words of deliverance, she finally realizes that it was because of him that the Holy Virgin did not appear to Klaus. She is in a stupor, and the Chancellor starts shouting for her to respond. Clutching her wrist in his hand, the enraged Chancellor asks her if she really thinks she's allowed to do anything because Klaus likes her. The girl doesn't answer. She just says she's in pain. Suddenly someone asks what the Chancellor is doing. He takes his eyes off Anna and sweats to see who told him that. It was Klaus. He asks who allowed Raymond to touch her in the first place. A somewhat startled Raymond is surprised to see Klaus here. Still holding Anna's wrist, he tries to say something. He says he was just giving her directions. Klaus asks Chancellor Raymond if he heard what he just said, and he says to get your hands off Anna immediately. Raymond is very surprised by this statement, and at the same moment he lets Anna go. He apologizes to Klaus for what he did, and Anna sits on the grass watching with a very frightened look on her face. Klaus walks up to Anna, sits on one knee, and asks her if she's okay, to which he gets a positive answer, at which point he extends his hand to her, and she repeats the action. Holding her hand in his, a satisfied and calm Klaus claims that only she can be unafraid to touch him. He looks at her hand as if he's about to kiss it. Anna is very much surprised and pleased with what Klaus said. She is very surprised to see this rare face of his. She is so happy to see him happy that she supposedly saved this picture on her cornea 1,000,000 times over. Klaus pulls a confused Anna to his chest and hugs her. He tells Chancellor Raymond that he is hiring Anna as his personal maid as of today. That is, he will no longer be able to give her instructions. The Chancellor, slowly departing, bows to His Majesty as usual, and says it will be as he wishes. Anna tries to stop Raymond, for she has not yet learned of the Holy Maiden. But Klaus distracts her by hugging her and reminding her that he promised her an amazing evening. As usual, Anna is very excited and confused about what's going on, sweat dripping down her face again. She apologizes to Klaus, and as if bouncing off him, Klaus looks down at the ground, and seeing two large books, he asks Anna what she's reading, but she can't answer. Klaus picks up one of the books, and with one hand holding the book and the other Anna reads what is written on the cover. He looks thoughtful. Kings of Darkness asks Anna if he understood what she read about his curse. The embarrassed girl, very worried, tells him that it's true. She lets him know that she thought it would be nice to have some idea of how to break Klaus' curse. Saying all this, Anna looked a little embarrassed. She blushed. A smirking Klaus says he's got it all figured out, and then takes Anna in his arms, surprised by this, because she couldn't have expected it. Klaus kisses her on the forehead. Anna tries to say something to him and ask him something, but she can't. Klaus says if she wants he can tell her when they're in bed. The satisfied King of Darkness says that Anna, who doesn't keep her promises, must be punished, and he hasn't let Anna out of his arms for a second. Klaus carries Anna to his room and throws her on his bed to fulfill his promise of a memorable evening, and at the same time punish Anna as he told her before. Anna looks very embarrassed. The King of Darkness pours red wine into his glass, while the confused Anna still doesn't understand what's going on, if he's really going to do it. In her mind, A pleased Klaus moves closer to her and almost right up to her. She's embarrassed but doesn't miss the opportunity to look at the pleased idol with at least one eye. Klaus drinks his glass of wine and glances at Anna. He asks her if she would like to drink wine with him. Anna hastens to refuse but remembers to thank him for the offer. He smirked and started to really get close to her, already putting his hand on the bed. It was clear that Klaus was serious about keeping his promises. He gently touches Anna's chin, lifting her face. They look into each other's eyes. Klaus radiates confidence while Anna radiates embarrassment. He notices that she is very calmly waiting for him in bed. As Klaus came even closer, he practically kissed Anna, and the girl was apparently ready. As she closed her eyes and waited for the kiss, Klaus asked her if she wanted it to happen sooner than later. As she looks at Klaus, she notices his lips, which apparently drive her crazy, and His Majesty says he never tires of looking at Anna. At this time, the plaid-covered girl becomes even more confused. Anna does not understand what is happening, but apparently she likes everything that is happening, because she does not offer any resistance. Klaus lay down on the bed. He reaches out to the girl and tells her to come closer to him, and when she does, Klaus puts his arm around her, hugs her, and closes his eyes as if he's going to sleep. Anna's mind goes into dissonance. She doesn't understand what's going on because she was expecting the opposite. She calls out to Klaus, but he covers her mouth with one finger and tells her to be quieter. Klaus says that if Anna is so horny, she won't be able to sleep, and they both look meaningfully into each other's eyes. Surprised and overly red, Anna asks Klaus what she wants to know, which is whether she's right about sleeping with Klaus. Klaus is a little surprised at such a question from her, and looking at Anna lovingly, he asks the girl what she expected. Anna panics, because she was wrong in her judgment about this evening with Klaus. She realizes that she just misunderstood him. She becomes very ashamed, and she thinks that she is very embarrassed, because she was expecting something else. Candles are burning in their room, and Klaus can't remember the last time he fell asleep so peacefully. So they snuggle up with a blanket and snuggle together and decide to sleep. In his opinion, he started to sleep well thanks to Anna, because it's probably because the girl yesterday weakened his curse. He doesn't know if these two things are connected and if it was because of that. But when he touches her, he feels better. Covering herself up to her nose with the blanket, the girl asks Klaus if she is the one who activated the magic circle that made him feel better. His Majesty asks her if she hasn't realized it before, but Anna says that she's never used a magic circle in her life, and she doesn't know how she could do such a thing, at which point Klaus touches her face and covers her mouth. Moving his hand to Anna's cheek, Klaus says that when he touches her, it doesn't hurt. All the while they look into each other's eyes, and Anna doesn't look as embarrassed as she used to. The King of Darkness says that thanks to Anna, his curse has weakened. Apparently the activation of the magic circle has a big effect on how he feels. Anna is very happy to have helped Klaus. She says thank goodness, because it's the best possible outcome. But she's not entirely happy with what's happening, because she says that someday she'll have to find a way to get rid of his curse completely. Then Klaus gets on top of Anna and tells her that she's absolutely right, and maybe this way she should not just touch him. He again comes face to face very close to Anna, practically touching his lips to hers, and asks Anna if she wants to loosen up a bit. She's very embarrassed and blushing again. As she has been before, she has some thoughts about what's going on, because she thought it would be the same, but if it will soothe Klaus' pain, she's ready, which she tells Klaus. He kisses her gently on the forehead, until she doesn't understand why he kisses her on the forehead, and then Klaus hugs her again and says goodnight to Anna. The girl is just puzzled because everything was going to a completely different outcome. But she realizes that Klaus finally called her by her first name for the first time, and she loves it. She wondered if Klaus, who had never let her out of his arms for a second, had fallen asleep, but he did, and he fell asleep very quickly. Anna doesn't understand what she should do, because she realizes that this way she won't be able to sleep. The girl is still confused from everything that happened before. She remembered the words Klaus had said to her in bed earlier, saying that he hadn't fallen asleep like that in a long time, not even remembering the last time it had happened. Anna thinks about all of this, makes the only right decision, and thinks that if she is of use to him, she will have to be patient, as the girl is ready to do anything for her idol Klaus, and to ease his pain from the curse of darkness imposed on him. It's morning. The sun is shining in the sky, and Klaus and Anna are still in the same bed. Klaus wakes up first. He sees Anna sleeping on him. Klaus is half naked. He touches the contented face of the sleeping Anna, who is dreaming. She starts talking in her sleep. She repeats the same word combination twice, and it was as if she was calling, repeating Mr. Klaus, Mr. Klaus. Klaus looks at Anna with a satisfied look, and saying that she saved him again, he kissed the sleeping Anna gently on the cheek. Anna was surprised when Klaus told her that from that day on she would be his personal maid, but her duties were unchanged. However, there was something that remained in question for Anna. She asked Klaus for permission to return to her work. She was on his knee while he was in his office reading something. Without distracting herself from reading some paper, Klaus says that being with him is Anna's job. But Anna insists on continuing the dialogue and asks if Klaus wants her to do something else besides sitting next to him while he's busy doing his job. Touching his lips, Klaus says that's something she could really do for him. He looks at Anna, which makes her blush immediately. Blushing, wild thoughts immediately came to Anna's mind, wondering if Klaus wanted her to perform some impropriety. Klaus touches her head and shatters her thoughts, telling her that he wants to taste the tea she's brewing, and he wants to taste the food Anna's cooking, and tells her it's possible to go on a long horseback ride. As usual, Anna looks very surprised by the answer, because she was expecting the opposite. She looks happy and at the same time very embarrassed. Klaus looks lovingly at Anna and seeing her surprise asks her what she thought when she heard that he really needed something. Anna couldn't give any concrete answer, just mumbled something, and Klaus told her that he was ready to go on a trip tomorrow. Just then Chancellor Raymond walks into his office, looking very serious, as if worried about something. Klaus is very surprised that the Chancellor has come into his office like this. Raymond apologizes to Klaus for walking into his office like that, justifying his insolence by Klaus not answering his knocks. Seeing him, Anna looks puzzled. She recalls what she learned about the Holy Maiden. She realizes that after all the Holy Maiden will not appear, and in her opinion she does not have the strength to fully get rid of the curse that is on the king. The Chancellor says he'll be in trouble if Klaus doesn't take care of state business right away, to which Klaus replies that he can do without it for a day, to which he gets an objection about his plans to go somewhere with Anna. But then Klaus remembers what he was just talking about with Anna, as if in an orderly manner, and with no disrespect to the Chancellor, he says that he told the cooks to let Anna cook in the kitchen. Raymond wanted to say something back but was immediately answered. Klaus asked him not to make him repeat himself. Sitting in his chair with Anna on his lap, who was clearly uncomfortable, Klaus tells Chancellor Raymond that what he said was an order. The Chancellor has no other option but to comply, which he does, but in doing so he glares furiously at Anna, and she thinks Raymond will think she's to blame for this again. Klaus asks Anna if she knows how to ride horses. She's a little surprised by the question, but says she's never ridden one before. The next day Klaus and Anna are riding a horse. The girl looks pretty scared because she hasn't had that experience before. Anna is surprised that the two of them ride the same horse, and in general, she never thought that the day would come when the two of them will sit on his favorite horse, which is called Dante. After slowing down a bit, Klaus asks his beloved how she liked horseback riding. Anna liked it very much, which she told Klaus. She thought it would be scary, but it turned out that it was not at all so. Klaus tells Anna that he could ride with her whenever he wanted. They tied the horse to a tree that they could stop and take a meal. Klaus was very surprised to see so much unfamiliar food. He looks pleasantly surprised. Turns out all this food was cooked by Anna. She made it all this morning, and everything she cooked was made with knowledge from her past life. Poking her fork into the first dish, she says it's called tamagoyaki, hoping Klaus will like what she's made for him. Holding out her fork to Klaus, she feeds him her dish. Klaus looks pleasantly surprised at the innovation. He tells her it's sweet. Anna immediately blushes and asks Klaus about his tastes. Focusing on sweet things, she thought he didn't like sweet things. From what she's told, their family put sugar in their tamagoyaki. Klaus is already taking refills, saying that he likes Anna's dish and calls it delicious, also emphasizing that it is the taste of Anna's house, to which Anna mentally replies that it is the taste of her house from a past life. Anna notices that King Klaus's hand was very warm. She holds out a mug of tea to him, which she brewed just as Klaus wanted. We learn the history of Klaus. It turns out that Klaus inherited his throne from his father. It's been 5 years since the truce was made. Since then the war has never started. Klaus brought peace to his country, but still, despite this fact, many people are very afraid of him because of the cloak he wears. Klaus notices by the look on Anna's face that something is wrong, so he asks her about it. But Anna just refuses, asking if he's having fun. even though she realizes that this question is inappropriate in this situation. Klaus says that Anna has very interesting questions. He tells her that he enjoys spending time with her, and that she is the reason he is having so much fun. Klaus does look happy, not like in the beginning. Anna tells him that she is very happy that she can help him in any way, and if he needs anything, he can ask her without hesitation, while Anna herself is embarrassed by Klaus' flattering comments about her. At the same moment, Klaus approaches her, grabs her gently by the chin and says that then, in that case, he'll ask her for something. He puts his arm around Anna's waist, but she says he can ask him for anything but that, as if to hint at intimacy. Still hugging Anna, Klaus lies on the ground, while Anna, who is on top of him, screams that she's going to crush him, but Klaus doesn't seem to care. Lying on his back with Anna on top of him, he notices something and tells her about it. He notices that she is light as a feather, and asks her if she is eating enough. Klaus grabs her by the waist and pulls her even closer to him. Anna tells him to stop, but he says it's okay because no one can see it, and as Anna gets closer to him he hears a squeak from her. He asks her what the squeak is, and they move their lips closer together. Anna is very embarrassed, but Klaus tells her to repeat the squeak, only this time he tells her to do it louder. A beautiful royal chariot with 2 horses approached a large building that looks like the entrance to another domain, or palace. Klaus and Anna are inside. He holds her hands and tells her that he doesn't want to let her go. Klaus looks disappointed that they have to break up for a little while. Anna embraces Klaus and tells him that yesterday was amazing. It's obvious that Anna enjoys being so close to the king, but she blushes with embarrassment. Suddenly an angry Chancellor Raymond appears. He tells the two that time is up while the young ones hold hands. The Chancellor seems annoyed by this. Klaus tells the Chancellor what he thinks will happen if Anna goes with him, but the Chancellor says it's just an official inspection of neighboring territories. Raymond says they can't let some servant girl go with him because of his whim, because the Lord might take that as Klaus' weakness, and then use it against the king himself. Anna ponders his words and realizes that Chancellor Raymond is usually right. But there is one thing that bothers her a great deal. She remembers the very moment when she was sitting by the fountain and Raymond approached her. Then he told her that he thought it would be enough to get rid of the holy maiden. Anna realizes that he doesn't want the curse to be lifted. Suddenly Klaus grabs Anna's hands again. She is a little surprised by this move on the king's part. Anna tells His Majesty King Klaus that she will wait for him. He seems very upset that they will have to part. The girl tells her king that she will be in the palace the whole time, and will do anything for him, suggesting that he at least clean his room. Klaus hugs Anna tightly. He looks very peaceful around her. The king whispers in his maid's ear that he will be back soon. Klaus and the Chancellor got into their chariot, and went off to do their business. Anna wished the departing party a happy journey, and her mind was filled with thoughts that her ears were about to explode with excitement. And all thanks to him. Anna is back at the palace, happy that she can finally do her job, because all this time she was just sitting around with Klaus. Then suddenly someone calls out to Anna. It turns out she was called by Mary. From Anna's own words, we understand that Mary is also a maid and her partner. She is her friend and takes care of her. The girl looks very gentle. The girls begin to talk to each other. Anna asks her friend how she is feeling, to which she immediately asks the same of Anna. It turns out Mary was worried, and very much surprised when she found out that she became His Majesty's personal maid. An embarrassed Anna says she still can't believe she's become His Majesty's personal maid. A pleased Mary says that and was originally happy to help His Majesty. She thinks it's very good that nothing has changed. The other maids see Anna and Mary talking to each other. Mary tells her friend that if she needs help she can call her. Anna is very grateful for her generosity. The other maids are very surprised to see the very and who has become the king's personal maid. They tell her that they have always wanted to talk to her, but His Majesty is very intimidating and it is impossible to get close to her. They ask her how she serves him. They all have a lot of questions. For example, Anna is asked how she is not cursed by being so close to the king. Another servant girl asks what her relationship with him is, and only Mary is completely normal about it. She realizes that only His Majesty came out of the castle, and here we go. Anna answers all the questions at once. She says that Klaus is very kind. Of course she doesn't deny that there are moments when he presses her, but he is not scary or intimidating as everyone imagines him to be. She says that his curse of darkness doesn't apply to the people around him at all. It's a curse only his burden that doesn't affect others. Suddenly, while all the maids are surrounding Anna, a voice is heard asking what they are all doing. and it turns out to be Chancellor Raymond. He asks Anna if he is right that while His Majesty is away she wants to steer the other maids down the wrong path. As usual, the Chancellor is very annoyed. All the maids see Raymond and hurry away, apologizing to him for their idleness, and she is surprised and even frightened. Mary stands up. She apologizes to Chancellor Raymond and says she stopped her. Anna is a little shocked at her friend's behavior. The Chancellor tells the girls to dutifully fulfill their duties, turns and leaves them, while they just stare silently at his back. The girl gets very upset because she pissed off Marquis Hilda. She apologizes to Mary, but Mary tells her not to worry, because Chancellor Raymond Hilda just sees Anna as an obstacle, because he wants his daughter to be queen, so he sees Anna as an obstacle to his plan. Anna recalls that the Chancellor tried to marry off his daughter in the novel, which is why he wanted to get rid of the Holy Virgin. Anna realizes that he will be considered superfluous only after the Holy Virgin appears in the palace. The girl notices that this is a world of light and darkness, but she cannot understand why the denouement is different from the original. His Majesty has returned to the palace, and runs down the corridors to meet the king. It turns out she wasn't called before His Majesty's return. She starts to think it's the Prime Minister who has done her a disservice. Klaus walks into the palace. All his subjects bow, greet him and congratulate him on his return, but he says nothing and walks past them as if saddened. An exasperated Klaus stares straight at Anna, who has come running in like everyone else trying to greet him, but he immediately grabs her by the wrist with a very angry look, and she doesn't understand anything. You can hear the surprise and fear in her voice. Klaus, still holding her wrist, starts to take her somewhere. He opens the door to a room, which is apparently where he and Anna are headed. Suddenly he walks into that very room and presses her back against the wall while the other servants are asking where Klaus has taken her, and he approaches to face her. His gaze looks crazy, he is sweating and his pupils are red. The girl does not understand what is happening and wonders if it is the curse of darkness that is reflected on him. Klaus starts kissing his maid's neck wetly. He tells her not to move, but she didn't want to, because it's obvious that Anna is also aroused by the king's actions. The agitated Anna still has some thoughts in her head. She thinks it might be because they were separated for a day, and maybe the curse has intensified. Anna tries to say something to Klaus, but he doesn't seem to hear her. Anna tries to tell Klaus that there are people at the door, but he's not inclined, and gently touching her face, he says that if she's afraid of being heard, he'll shut her up. They're both very excited, and it looks like something even hotter is coming next. At the door no one knows what's going on. The maids ask what's wrong and the Chancellor orders everyone to look for him, while Klaus is still close to Anna and still gently touches her face. Anna realizes what's going on between her and Klaus, and seeing his pressure, thinks they're about to kiss. It seems like they're both waiting for it. But then suddenly Anna turns her head and says she won't do it with Klaus. He looks angry, and asks Anna if she'll refuse him because he's her king. Anna realizes that she must obey Klaus and tries to explain to him what is going on. She says that she will not refuse the king, although she looks very frightened. When she hears Anna's answer, Klaus tells her that she must obey his will. There are sounds of knocking at the door. The Chancellor from behind the door asks His Majesty if he is there. The girl understands that it is Mr. Raymond and thinks what to do, because if he sees them, she will be in trouble. But Klaus doesn't even seem to notice that Raymond is outside the door. He slips his hand under Anna's dress. She's very surprised by the king's insistence. He raises his hand higher and higher under Anna's dress, gently touching her thigh. Such pleasure makes it very difficult for Anna to hold back her moans, so she covers her mouth with her palms to avoid making sounds. Still keeping his hand on his maid's thigh, Klaus finally deigns to answer Raymond. He asks him what's wrong that he's looking for him so much. Raymond talks to Klaus about matters of state as usual. This time he says the king needs to make reports, not forgetting to ask him what he's doing with Anna. Klaus says he knows he has a report to file, but he never takes his hand off Anna's thigh for a second, her body giving him pleasure. Raising his hand higher and higher, Klaus puzzles Anna. She doesn't understand why he continues. The girl still clenches her hands over her mouth to keep from moaning suddenly. Klaus whispers something in Anna's ear again, asking her if she wants to see how Raymond will react when he sees her with that look on her face. A highly aroused Anna still holds her mouth with her hands, and just keeps silent so that God forbid her moans are not heard, while Klaus seems to be satisfied that he has aroused his maid so much, and insists that she responds. After saying that she didn't want Raymond to see her so horny, she threw herself at Klaus and hugged him. But the king looked a little confused by the behavior of his maid. Anna aroused and looks at her king and tells him that she doesn't want anyone but him to see her so aroused. And she also says that she thinks it would be better if they progressed gradually. Anna is in a panic because of her own words. She starts to think about what she said. She doesn't realize what she just said, and she doesn't understand what it is, because Klaus is her idol and she wants to free him from the curse of darkness. But what is happening now is very disturbing. Klaus, removing his hands as if to stop right now, tells the girl that he's got it all figured out. Apparently satisfied, Klaus will indeed stop. Anna thanks Klaus for stopping. She seems calmer than she was before, and her arousal seems to have diminished a bit. But Klaus can surprise everyone as always. He throws Anna on his shoulder and starts walking with her, and Anna, thinking it's all over, is incredibly surprised by this sudden turn, because Klaus had stopped, and then everything changed so drastically. He comes out with Anna on his shoulder from the room they went into before. Raymond is shocked at what he sees. He is utterly bewildered by this, and tells the king to stop. Klaus is adamant in his decision. He still walks on with his maid on his shoulder. Anna begins to wonder what the king's words mean when he told her earlier that he understood everything. It's been a while since it happened, and according to Anna's own account, Klaus has been touching her even more insistently than before. Klaus and his maid are in his office. He's reading something, and Anna asks him if she can do her work, just like before. Klaus repeats his words again, asking Anna how many times he's told her it's her job to be with him. Anna replies that she doesn't have to sit on his lap, but Klaus puts his arm around her and says he's much more relaxed, looking very peaceful around Anna. She tells Klaus that the others are looking at them, meaning the three maids who were nearby looked very surprised at this statement from Anna. All three maids, telling Klaus and Anna to ignore them, because if His Majesty is so pleased, it's okay. They look a little embarrassed. Klaus, not having heard the rest of what his subjects had to say, immediately reacts to Anna's embarrassment, and tells them to leave immediately, which they do, apologizing for their presence. At that moment Chancellor Raymond appears. He asks His Majesty why he throws out the maids. Raymond is puzzled by the king's behavior. Raymond glances at the king, and sees Klaus, who seems to have no emotion about talking to him, and a very embarrassed Anna. Klaus asks Raymond if he wants something, but cunning Raymond seems to change the subject. He says he's thinking how well they're getting on together, and he's also very pleased that the king's health has improved. Klaus says that Chancellor Raymond is right, and I note that all his improvements are due to his maid Anna, who seems surprised by this dialogue between the Chancellor and the king. The girl is trying to figure out what the Chancellor is up to, because from what she's seen, he used to think she was the obstacle to his daughter's marriage to the king. But it's not so easy to fool the king. Klaus asks again what the Chancellor wanted. The Chancellor says he has something he needs to tell in secret. It's about a situation with a neighboring country. We see a map with 2 different countries marked on it. The Chancellor informs the king that he wishes to speak to the 2 of them personally about this secret information. The king, as usual, listens to no one and refuses the Chancellor's hint that and should leave them. When she hears Klaus say no to the Chancellor's suggestion that she leave, Anna seems shocked, because she doesn't think it's right. It's classified information after all. Still on the king's lap, she turns to him and says she wants to make a new tea, to which she gets a reply from Klaus telling her not to worry her head. But Anna insists, and says she wants to make new tea after all, and asks the king if he'll let her go. Klaus, not very pleased with this pressure, agrees to Anna's request after all, and helps her down from his lap, and she gets to her feet. Klaus kisses her hand and tells Anna to come back as soon as possible. Anna is a little embarrassed by Klaus' behavior. She blushes but says she will. Looking at Anna's back, the departing Chancellor apologizes for disturbing her, with a smile that seems to emphasize his cunning. She replies that it's no big deal, and as she walks through the castle corridors, she wonders what's wrong with the Chancellor, since he's been reluctant to help her weaken Klaus' curse in the past. During these reflections, someone comes at Anna from behind and puts some kind of rag to her nose and mouth, inhaling the vapor from which she slowly begins to lose consciousness. The uncomprehending girl falls to the ground next to the silhouette that attacked her. Anna wakes up already with her hands, feet, and mouth bound, in some kind of room that looks like a warehouse. She can't understand where she is, and she doesn't look very well, as if very exhausted. She remembers that she was about to make tea, but then some black silhouette came at her from behind. Only now the girl realizes that she is completely tied up. She is still in a state of effect, and can't understand what happened. The girl tries to make some sounds, but all to no avail. Outside the door of the room where Anna is, two men dressed entirely in black are talking. One of them asks if they're here yet, because there's a threat to other people's lives, to which the other younger man says he'll go and see. The girl hears someone fighting outside the door, someone telling the other person to stop, calling him a fool, and telling him to stay here. Anna realizes that she has heard this dialogue somewhere before. She recalls that she remembered this dialogue from the scene where the holy maiden is kidnapped, just as she was kidnapped. She can't understand why this scene is from the original. Did she become a substitute for the Holy Virgin? Lying on the floor completely bound, she wonders how a substitute for the Holy Virgin could become a simple servant girl like her. She manages to get on her knees. She still looks very weakened. She realizes that if everything is as in the original, the Prime Minister must be the culprit. She realizes that the trackers are probably somewhere at the back door. Anna tries to understand how the Holy Virgin was able to escape from this situation. Although she does not understand how the Holy Virgin did it, but she absolutely understands that she was tied up too tightly, and she cannot escape. Anna realizes her powerlessness in front of the situation. She starts crying. She looks very disappointed and of course scared because of all this. She remembers King Klaus kissing her hand the last time they met, and telling her to come back as soon as possible. She realizes that tears won't help. She begins to move from side to side, while encouraging herself, and telling herself to brace herself, for she had promised to return as soon as possible. She starts looking around, and now looking for something that might help her get out of this place. High up on the shelves she notices glass bottles of wine. Provoking one of these bottles to fall off the shelf, on impact with the hard ground the bottle shatters into glass shards. Anna turns her back on these shards, picks up the largest of them, and tries to cut the rope on her arms using that shard. The girl never thought she'd be in such a situation, emphasizing that it was like it was straight out of the book she loved so much. At last she manages to cut the rope with which her hands were tied. She is very much pleased at this, but makes no noise. Next thing she decides to remove the tight bandage from her mouth, and also without making any noise she realizes she has to hurry up. It's bad timing. The door opens and the two men look on. They realize she's cut the rope and ask her if she really thought she could escape. Taking the remains of a broken bottle in her hands, she points this edged weapon at her captors, and tells them to stay back. Unfortunately, she didn't have time to cut her bound feet, and that's why she's still on the floor. The kidnappers consult among themselves and come up with a plan to disarm it. One of them kicks the same shelf from which the bottle fell, and this time the bottle falls again. At which point one of the kidnappers grabs Anna by the hair, and with a knife in his hands says she's just a maid, and an upstart at that. One of them roughly grabs her face and walks closer to her, and says that he was told he could do anything with Anna except kill her. She is frightened. Then King Klaus himself opens the door with his foot, sword in hand, and you can tell by the king's actions that he's determined. Still in the doorway, the wardens notice his angry and frantic gaze, and the sword in his hands gleams as if to hint at someone's imminent doom. The kidnappers holding Anna by the hair are shocked to see the king himself in front of them. Anna opens her eyes, and weeping sees Klaus. Evil Klaus, telling them to get their filthy hands off his beloved Anna. He calls them devils, and the look on his face makes it clear that someone's about to get hurt. Klaus swings his sword, first striking the oldest of the kidnappers and then, with the same deft move, striking the second, causing the kidnappers to bleed. Anna's kidnappers immediately fell to the ground. While she watches it all, everything around is stained with blood. The king still hasn't let go of the sword from his hand. He raises his sword arm and points the blade down. He tells the kidnappers they're going to die, and we realize he's about to stab them with his sword. Anna, frightened, tells the evil Klaus not to kill them, but he tells her not to be afraid because he'll wipe out anyone who wants to hurt her. Still on her knees, she wraps her arms around his leg as if to hug him. She tells Klaus that he's not like his father, and adds that he shouldn't lose himself. Weeping Anna says that Klaus realizes it himself. It's like he's waking up and forgetting his anger and revenge. Falls to his knees and hugs Anna tightly. So tightly that she tells him she can't breathe. Clearly Klaus was very worried. He apologizes for hugging her so hard. Outside they are being watched by two other men who ask the king what this is all about. Klaus, sitting next to Anna, tells the two men to tie up the kidnappers because he thinks there is a chance they have allies, and he orders the guards at the palace to be beefed up, and the men comply. The king notices that Anna has been maimed and tells her so, but they don't seem to care, and she says the important thing is that he saved her. Klaus rises a little from the earth, hides Anu under his cloak and tells her not to be afraid of anything. She doesn't really understand what Klaus is doing now. With an exasperated look and red eyes, Klaus takes Anna's hand and tells her that he won't let anyone else touch her. Klaus licks his maid's hand. The cat is blushing again and doesn't understand. He hugs her and says he will protect her now. Anna and Klaus were in his chambers where Klaus was giving first aid to Anna. The girl sitting on the king's lap tells him that it's time for her to work. Klaus bandages her hands, feet, and puts a band-aid on her face. The girl can't understand why her idol treats some servant girl like that. Klaus notices that Anna is a workaholic. He hugs her, kisses her head tenderly, and tells her not to work too hard. The girl blushes again. According to Anna herself, after the incident when she was taken hostage, she was never let out of Mr. Klaus' bedroom. The girl tries to object to the king. The girl says that she can somehow help with the investigation, but the King of Darkness is adamant. The girl tries to change her king's mind, as usual, saying that she is a servant after all and should do something, but Klaus asks her if she doesn't like it. He throws her on the bed, stands over her, and she says it's not that she's unhappy that Klaus is so close to her. She blushes again. Klaus tells his maid that as long as she's here, he'll protect her. He licks her hand again and tells the horny girl that now she can't be hurt. He holds her hand and looks at her. Klaus notes that in order to always be protected, she just needs to always be near him. He was right next to her lap. The king starts kissing her feet, but Anna says not this place. But Klaus, as usual, doesn't take no for an answer and says that she belongs to him now. An agitated Anna tries to tell the king that it's not allowed, but her face says the opposite. Klaus still touches her feet, then approaches her and tells her that it is. While on top of her, a horny Klaus tells Anna that he wants more of her and that he misses her. His gaze insane and his desires obvious. Anna begins to ponder what is happening. She thinks maybe the curse of darkness is raging, even though she is always by his side. Why is it that the curse, instead of weakening, only grows stronger and takes over Klaus, whom she loves so much? The girl thinks that if Klaus is not helped by the real Holy Maiden, he will not be saved from the curse of darkness. She closes her eyes and thinks about how she could activate magic like last time. And apparently she succeeds because a blue glow appears around them. Klaus wakes up as if from a dream and his pupils are back to normal color. Anna looks at him happily. Klaus realizes it's the Prime Minister and asks him what he wants. And she seems a little scared that Raymond has come again. Raymond apologizes for interrupting Klaus and Anna's rest, but he says that the border chief's messengers have arrived and he has some important information. So he asks Anna to come out, and she realizes that whoever ordered her hostage is Prime Minister Raymond. She remembers the last time she was kidnapped. Anna knows that Prime Minister Raymond was the man who planned her kidnapping, thinks about how to explain to Mr. Klaus that Raymond is involved. Klaus hugs Anna and tells her not to be afraid. Then he asks Anna if she wants peace to reign in this country, to which she replies that of course she does, because if there is peace in the country, people will be happy. She tells him not to lose himself, and she thinks he probably realizes it himself. Klaus thinks about Anna's words and basically agrees with her. Abruptly, Klaus gets out of bed and says he has to leave for a while. He tells Anna that she can do whatever she wants in the room, but that she must never leave the room, and he asks Anna if she understands. The girl says she understands, but since she's worried about Klaus, she asks him if he's okay, since he's been in so much pain lately. He walks over to Anna and takes her hair in his hand. Klaus says that he's fine of course and that he has to go. Anna looks rather embarrassed but wishes him luck. It's evening and Klaus goes back to his room. He opens the door and immediately apologizes to Anna for being late. But he doesn't see anyone in the room, and when he starts calling her and asking where she is, he hears a voice from behind the door that she's there. Furious that he didn't find Anna where he left her in the first place, Klaus slowly walks over to the door. He pulls the handle and says he's going to open it, but from behind the door he hears Anna telling him not to. Turns out it was a bathroom, and out comes Anna, who was showering in towels, and she runs to Klaus and they hug. The king asks Anna if she is all right, to which the girl lowers her head and apologizes for bathing at the royal estates without his permission. And then her eyes sparkled and she looked at Klaus and tried to say something. When Klaus saw this, she asked him if he understood correctly that she wanted to call him to the bathroom. Klaus watched her reaction intently. The girl was very frightened by the assertion of her king. She hadn't meant for him to make such a suggestion, It turned out she just thought it was better to be clean before he came in. Klaus hugs her and asks if he's right that she's for him, watching himself while hugging her puts his hand on Anna's buttock. She is very surprised and seemingly excited that Klaus is showing his animal instincts again. But you can see from Klaus' face that he's happy and content. But gently touching her head, Klaus looks at Anna and tells her that they're going to check it out. Klaus and Anna embrace in front of the mirror. The girl is wearing only a light cape. She asks Klaus to let her go, but Klaus whispers in her ear that she called him. Klaus touches her thigh again, slowly but surely moving his hand up her leg. Anna is again aroused by his behavior but is about to say that she is not going to do it, and then sneezes. Klaus takes his hand off her thigh and she blushes because she sneezed in front of him. She's embarrassed that she sneezed in front of him like that, but she doesn't tell Klaus about it. She's just judging herself in her head. The king lifts her up in his arms, holding the girl by the buttocks with one hand. She is embarrassed and aroused, which makes her blush again. In the king's opinion, she's chilled, and after saying that, Klaus throws Anna on the bed and meaningfully tells her that he's going to warm her up. The young king embraces the half-naked and, holding her close to him, he feels the pleasure of being with her and touching her and her body. During the hug, Anna feels that Klaus's body is unusual. It is very warm, and Klaus's lips are right next to her tender shoulders. Anna tells Klaus to stop. She yells for him to stop, and only then does Klaus stop. Anna says she needs to talk to him and puts her hands on his chest so he won't be too fast. Klaus doesn't understand what's going on and asks her what's going on, to which he gets a request to let Anna go. But he doesn't comply and tells her not to be afraid. But she considers telling him in all seriousness that such intimacy is bad for the heart, but decides only to tell him that he must find a holy maiden. Klaus asks which holy maiden we're even talking about, but emphasizes that she said something about her last time. Anna tells King Klaus that she thinks that if he has that holy maiden by his side, then surely his curse will be finally lifted. Klaus asks her what she means. Anna says it's hard to explain. In her head she's adding it up, thinking that she can't just tell him it's in the story. But in reality she's trying to explain to Klaus who the holy maiden is. But without coming up with anything, she says it's just obvious that she's a saint. Klaus looks at Anna meaningfully, and says he's never heard of such a person existing before. Then he puts his hand on Anna's head, and says he thinks she's not lying, and there really is a holy virgin. But if this holy virgin has the power to deliver him from the curse of darkness, then this holy virgin is Anna herself. At which point he touches Anna's surprised face. She listens attentively, and then he says this. She's just a lowly servant girl, not knowing what Klaus is talking about because she can't be a saint maid. Klaus is very surprised to hear that she's lowly. The girl realizes what she just said and says it doesn't matter, and she can't be a saint maid in any way. Klaus doesn't believe her, because she is the only one who saves him from the same curse. Anna doesn't understand why it is so, because she is not a holy virgin. Klaus asks the girl why she thinks that. She tries again to explain her thoughts, but all she can think of is that she thinks that because she read it, but because she can't tell him that. Anna says that she can't explain it, but she is definitely not a holy maiden and she can't save Klaus, at which Anna blushes and starts to cry. Klaus is touched to the core by the fact that she started crying thinking about him. He hugs her and wipes her tears with his hand. Anna calms down a little. But to calm her down, Klaus kisses her on the scales, but she still cries and says that this way Klaus will suffer for all eternity. Klaus, seeing how worried she is about his curse, claims that he hasn't told Anna but he actually knows a more effective way to break his curse. She is very surprised by this statement. Then Klaus touches her face gently, and to top it all off by saying that only she can lift his curse, he asks if he can ask her for something. When Anna hears about it, she says that of course he can ask her to do it. She mentions that she will do whatever she can do. Klaus asks her if she promises to fulfill it, and says that then let her not dare refuse him anymore. Anna wonders what happens now. Klaus pounces on her like never before. They are both horny, and now the king kisses his beloved without wasting a moment. They both enjoy this moment. Anna is very surprised by Klaus' behavior. As usual, she didn't expect it at all. But she can't say anything either, because his tongue and hers are intertwined in a kiss. Finally they're done kissing. Klaus is still holding her waist. Anna is embarrassed, and says it was her first kiss. In her mind she realizes it was her first kiss both here and in her past life. Klaus, standing next to her on the bed, says that from now on, Anna will only be with him. They kiss once more. Apparently Anna likes it as much as Klaus does. Klaus claims that the more he and Anna grow closer, the more the curse weakens. All the action took place on a dark night with a full moon in the castle of the King of Darkness Klaus, specifically in his sleeping room. Klaus and Anna are kissing passionately again. They are both excited, but then Anna coughs and tells Klaus that she can't breathe. Klaus looks at it all condescendingly, and says he told her how to breathe. He gets as close to her as he can and says if she doesn't get it, she'll practice until she does. And the night goes by very quickly. The sun shining through the window and Anna pondering all that was happening, it seemed to her that the distance between them and today. The girl doesn't forget about her direct duties, but Klaus doesn't let her out of the room as usual. And even when she's cleaning, he's next to her, cuddling her, reading some book. Anna tells the king that she needs to go out, but he doesn't understand why she needs to go out. He says he'll bring anything, while kissing her ear. But Anna says that's not the problem. She just thinks her coworkers are worried about her. Klaus insists that she never leaves his estate. He says he's already told everyone that the girl is safe. But even then Anna tries to get her to leave his room for a minute. Klaus looks at Anna and tells her that he won't let her go anywhere. He tells her that if she wants to, he'll make sure she can't even get out of bed, let alone go anywhere. He starts licking her neck. Anna gets excited and thinks about the fact that when Klaus touches her, she finds it hard to restrain herself. And at this point I will interrupt my story. And if you want to see what happened between Klaus and Anna, then I ask each of you to subscribe to the channel, rate this video with a thumbs up, and do not forget to write in the comments if you want to see the second part, because I retold only the first part of this manga, and I have the same number of chapters in store for you.